What's up, guys? It's Rob here, and we need to talk about Ironnet stock, ticker symbol IRNT, because this stock is absolutely dumping today. We're down 27%. Let's take a look at the chart and see what's going on. So just to gain a little bit of a backstory, you can see that over the past couple of days, this stock has really run up. Just 5 days ago, it was at $17. And then on this earnings call, this thing really started taking off and ended up shooting up all the way to highs of $60 in the pre-market before fading away throughout the rest of the day. Now, you can see we did have a kind of rocky day yesterday, especially during the actual trading day, right? If you put aside the pre-market and don't look at, how much it ran up before then, yesterday was a kind of shaky day, right? We weren't having this euphoric momentum push upwards. It was kind of just like we were bouncing around in this $36 to $46 range the whole day. And while we did end not as low as we could have. It was around kind of the middle of that, actually. This wasn't the best thing to see, especially towards the end of the day as we began selling off. Now, this ended up leading us to an even bigger crash today than, what a lot of people were thinking we would have. Even though we were dipping down in the pre-market, we were finding a lot of support at this $36 level, which is where we kind of bottomed out yesterday when we were trading. However, we ended up breaking that right around market open. On the first couple of tickers, really, and now we've been sinking down even lower to this $30 level, which I've been guessing would act as some kind of support. It looks like it may be beginning to act more as a resistance. You see right here, we just shot right through it, and now have been sitting below $30. And the reason that I thought that 30 would potentially be acting as a support is because you saw that it acted as a fairly strong resistance level in the past, right before we had this massive run-up, right? So we had the earnings call the night before, and then the stock was running up and kept bouncing on $30 and couldn't break through until the end of the day, where it ended up shooting up, rallying all the way to 41, and then continuing that rally to $60 the next night, or the next morning. So what's been going on with IRNT, and why is this thing dumping? Well, it's dumping because this was a momentum play. A lot of people bought in on this, just into the hype of this pretty good earnings call, honestly. We covered that in the last video we did on it. And now people are looking to take more of a risk off, some risk off of their portfolio. Some shorts are coming in, as we're about to look at on Ortex. You see the short interest is up 3.07%, and you can actually look at this graph where we have the short interest overlaid against IRNT's price, and you can see that as the price was rising, the short interest began shooting up massively. So now we're actually at a 16% short interest percent of free float, which is relatively high, considering that this stock is not it's not a bad company, right? They actually have a lot going for them. And if you look at their investors relation page, you can find this PowerPoint, which really reveals a lot of the good sides to this company, right? They actually have very many partnerships. They're working with Japan, 2 Department of Defense branches, 4 U.S. state agencies. You see they're here with the Department of Homeland Security, some other U.S. agency I can't quite read, IBM, Microsoft Office, Amazon Web Services, Google. They have a lot of good partners, and they actually revealed in their earnings call that they've more than doubled their customers year over year. So this stock is based off of a pretty good company, fundamentally speaking. Now, they have also been showing massive revenue growth. You can look. It's been going up significantly almost pretty much every quarter, actually. And even this most recent quarter, it was very impressive. They were up about $100 million worth of revenue. So that's really good for them over the long term. They have been growing, and I do expect that this company will probably continue growing because they did just recently become publicly traded. Just about a month ago, when they stopped being a SPAC, they ended up merging with this SPAC, and now they've been shooting up. So I do think this company will probably continue moving up in an upwards direction, at least over the long term. But during the short term, this obviously was a little bit too much for them. They obviously, people did not think they were worth $60 and are shooting down. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to sink down as low as some of these other short plays, because this really wasn't a short squeeze stock, right? This is becoming what could potentially be a short squeeze stock, because now institutions and potentially others, maybe even just some whales, are shorting this en masse because they see this thing going up so high compared to what they think it should be worth, right? But we aren't actually now that far off from where we were before this earnings call, and the earnings call actually did justify a bit of a rise in this company's stock price because it was a great earnings call. So I do think that we're probably worth more than this $20 level where we were kind of sitting around 17 and at the most $23 before the earnings call. I think that we probably have justified a slightly higher stock price, and maybe even $30, right? Because $30 is not that much higher than where we were, and we did see amazing revenue numbers. And so it makes sense that we would see a higher stock price, especially after all of this attention that we've got from this squeeze. This stock has become one of the most popular stocks on StockTwits, and if you look at Google Trends, this is tracking its interest over the past 7 days. You can see that we aren't really fading in interest that much, right? We're very similar to where we were the past couple of days when we were spiking. And this day, obviously, you're going to see much more interest because that's when we were hitting $60 and now we're about half the price. But what I like is that we haven't really just tipped in the complete opposite direction, and we aren't like just sinking way down interest-wise. We do still have some significant interest on this stock. Once again, this is only over the past 7 days, so it's not the longest term time frame, and you can actually see if you look over the past maybe 90 days that there is significantly more interest in this company now than there was obviously before it was actually publicly traded earlier about a month ago. There wasn't going to be any interest in it, but now it is becoming one of the more talked about stocks. And once again, it's a serious cybersecurity company, so there really is some potential for it over the long term. Now, that's mostly what I wanted to discuss. However, there is one more thing and one more reason why this thing is really dumping down, and that has to do with the options activity. Now, if you look at the options activity, the open interest activity for September 17th, you can see that we are now, at a much lower price, obviously, than where we were yesterday. We ended up around $43, I believe. Yesterday was our close at $42, just about $41.30. So all of these options contracts, essentially, right here, all the way up until here, all of these options contracts are now out of the money. And, the institutions that were selling these really like this. So it's very possible that this thing, because this is the September 17th strike date, and today is September 17th, that after today, this stock may be moving up in the future. Probably, after the weekend, though, once all of these options have expired, because institutions want these open interest options to expire. You see there are 1,000 for here, 4,000 for the $35 strike price, 4,000 for the $37 strike price, 5,000 for the $40 strike price. So there are a ton of options that are expiring worthless that a lot of probably retail investors were buying because they saw this thing spiking up and wanted to make a quick buck. Institutions want those to expire worthless because they were likely selling them. Now, I do think that this almost certainly has an effect on the stock price. I think that institutions love to push these things down just temporarily, especially with short positions, right? They did increase their short position today. That's most likely contributing to the downfall of this stock. Obviously, not all of it is just shorts, but probably a decent amount of it, right? As opposed to institutional buying, which might have been going on based off of the good news that we got if we hadn't seen these options contracts expiring when they were, right, today. So after today, once those contracts have expired, there's a real chance, I think, for this stock to rebound a little bit, not to go maybe to the prior highs that we had of $60, because that was a little bit out of the question, and there isn't a real catalyst that could cause us to go there other than momentum, right? This isn't a short play, not yet at least. We are at 16%, which is getting somewhat heighty, right? For a lot of stocks, that is a decent amount, especially for a good company like this. It doesn't quite make sense for this thing to be at 16%. Based off of the fundamentals, I think the people were just getting a little bit greedy when they saw these really high stock prices and are trying to push it down and make a little bit on the short side. But it really isn't that big of a gain that we've seen from here to here based off of the earnings news. This is not too out of the ordinary for good companies, good growing companies to go through, especially new ones when they're at the beginning of their life. Because you can see, if you go 90 days, this company was just trading as a SPAC at $10 90 days ago. So it really is new, and we're going to have to wait a while to see what the markets end up valuing it at. But that's what I think about IRNT. I could be looking to add this to my portfolio if this ends up dropping a bit more. As of now, I'm kind of waiting to see where the dust settles, because obviously I don't want to encourage anyone to buy this, because it could continue dropping, right? This thing could continue getting shorted, and it could continue dropping, and probably not past $20. I just don't think that would happen after the good earnings news that we've had. But that's not a guarantee. Obviously, we could go lower than that. I don't think that will be the case. I think we'll probably, after the weekend at least, end up moving upwards a little bit once those option contracts have expired. Because if you look, there are very few open interest calls for most of these strike dates and strike prices out here. September 24th has basically none of them. Same as for October 1st. And October 8th as well has hardly any. I mean, some of these have zero open interest contracts on them, so I don't see much of an incentive for market makers or institutions to hold this thing down past that point. So that's what I have for you guys today on IRNT. If you've enjoyed the video, feel free to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate it. Other than that, have a great day, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.